to the states, unquote. That, of course, hasn't happened because it was never intended to happen. But who is the real Newt Gingrich? William F. Jasper included a telling glimpse of the early Gingrich career in an article from the New American Magazine in December of 1994. Jasper reported what the current biography yearbook for 1989 revealed about the speaker. This publication's short bio sketch began by noting that after Gingrich graduated from Emory University in 1965, he received advanced degrees from Tulane University in 1968 and in 1971. He then became a professor at a state college in Georgia. But then the current biography yearbook for 1989 stated the following. His behavior at Tulane appeared to belie his future conservatism and hawkish foreign policy views. He accepted student deferments rather than face the draft during the Vietnam War, experimented with marijuana, led a campus demonstration defending the school paper's right to print a nude photograph of a faculty member, and campaigned for Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller of New York in 1968. Well, to put it mildly, these are not the credentials one would expect to find in a principled conservative. No campaigner for Nelson Rockefeller could ever seriously be characterized as a conservative. When the Republicans won control of the Congress in the elections of 1994, Gingrich had already risen to the position of deputy party leader in the House. He therefore had the inside track to become Speaker. Because he was about to become the most powerful man in the entire Congress, a great deal of attention came his way. Ever the brash professor, he produced a list of 8 books he wanted fellow members of Congress to read. One was the Declaration of Independence. Another was the Federalist Papers, written by Madison, Hamilton, and Jay. But the Constitution was not on his list. Another of the books that Gingrich recommended made many sit up and take notice. It was this one, The Third Wave by Alvin Toffler, originally published in 1980 and reissued in 1994 by the New Age Promoting Progress and Freedom Foundation in Washington. Who is Alvin Toffler, and what did he promote in his book that Gingrich found to be so important that he would so highly recommend it? Toffler believes that mankind is entering a completely new phase of development, the third wave, if you will. To adapt to this new development, Toffler urged a whole new system of government for America because he believes that the old system just can't work anymore. He began the final chapter of his book with a letter addressed to the founding parents, which is what he called the founding fathers. To Washington, Franklin, Adams, Madison, Jefferson, and others, he wrote, quote, "For the system of government you fashioned, including the very principles on which you based it, is increasingly obsolete, and hence increasingly, if inadvertently, oppressive and dangerous to our welfare. It must be radically changed, and a new system of government invented, a democracy for the 21st century." End quote. Toffler closed by stating, quote, "For this wisdom, above all, I thank Mr. Jefferson, who helped create the system that served us so well for so long, and that now must, in its turn, die and be replaced." End quote. So, Newt Gingrich's highly recommended friend urges the death of the American constitutional system. Obviously, Gingrich agrees. The principles undergirding the Constitution were sound when there were 4 million Americans in an agriculture-based society more than 200 years ago, and they are no less sound today when there are 260 million Americans in a highly industrialized society. And let's add that they will still apply when there are even more Americans in any information-based society or any other kind of society envisioned by the Tofflers or anyone else. How many Americans there are and how they earn a living aren't the most fundamental considerations. We are still human beings possessed of a nature that doesn't change. And that realization 200 years ago led to the Constitution, and that Constitution ushered in the greatest nation in the history of the world. Gingrich even wrote a foreword to Alvin and Heidi Toffler's book entitled Creating a New Civilization. His relationship with the Tofflers goes back over many years, and he knows their thinking very well. Only a few days after the Republican triumph in 1994, Gingrich told a press conference, quote, "The best description of me is that I'm a conservative futurist. Marianne and I have for a long time been friends of Alvin and Heidi Toffler, the authors of Future Shock and the Third Wave." Now, this man, who is the Speaker of the House, has repeatedly sworn an oath to adhere to the strict limitations in the U.S. Constitution. He has sworn this oath every second year at the beginning of each new Congress in which he has served. Yet, he rather brazenly endorses an attitude which holds that the document he's pledged to abide by is obsolete and must die and be replaced. In 1995, Gingrich authored his own book, To Renew America. Now, as I understand it, the word renew means to reinvigorate and not discard what was once new. My dictionary even supplies the word restore as a synonym. If America is to be restored politically and in numerous other ways, it stands to reason that its foundations would be given a new emphasis. It stands to reason that getting back to the Constitution would be the basis of the renewal. But Gingrich's book mentions the Constitution only once, merely to acknowledge that it exists. Let's go back to the mid-1970s. In 1974, Larry McDonald won his seat in the Congress. This was the year that Newt Gingrich started running for Congress. It took him 3 tries before he finally made it. But 1974 was also the year when the incredibly subversive article, The Hard Road to World Order, was published in Foreign Affairs, the Journal of the Council on Foreign Relations. This article was written by CFR heavyweight Richard N. Gardner. It lamented that a single leap into world government wasn't possible, so he brazenly called for, quote, an end run around national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece, end quote. He even stated that the end run approach could produce some remarkable concessions of sovereignty that could not be achieved on an across-the-board basis. Among the numerous recommendations to accomplish this end run, Gardner, as far back as 1974, remember, he called for disarmament programs, a UN military force, additional authority for the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, and new and broader enforcement powers to go along with membership in the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT. Now, no one from the Council on Foreign Relations has ever repudiated these explicit Gardner-authored attacks on national sovereignty. Instead, the CFR's journal has published other, less subtle assaults. But the overall goal remains the same. The Council on Foreign Relations wants to push the United States into a world government. And as many Americans have begun to discover, the CFR crowd has been getting its way for many, many years. So it came as little surprise to see the name Newton L. Gingrich listed as a member of the Council on Foreign Relations in the beginning of 1990. And this organization was founded in 1921 for the purpose of creating a world government and abolishing national independence. Jump ahead now to the fall of 1994, 20 years after the Gardner article in Foreign Affairs magazine. CFR member Gingrich's Republican Party has just won a huge victory in the 1994 congressional races. He's in line to be Speaker of the House. What does he do? He acquiesces in the convening of a lame duck session of Congress. Then he uses his considerable muscle to have Congress pass an important measure leading to the demise of this nation's sovereignty, much deeper involvement for the United States in GATT. He has already helped to get NAFTA passed. In both of these efforts, he stood shoulder to shoulder with Bill Clinton, another member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Numerous congressmen and newly elected representatives said that anything as important to the United States as submitting to GATT's World Trade Organization shouldn't be decided by defeated congressmen in a lame duck session. They wanted any vote on the matter to be postponed until the new Congress convened in January of 1995. They said that the issue should be decided by the newly elected members of Congress who reflected the current attitude of the American people, which attitude